RCA CTC16 color roundy part 4. I think this is part 4. In the last part, we did the debates on this, and it took forever for the color to pop in. I ordered all the electrolytics, so I'm going to do the electrolytic capacitors, and we'll test all the tubes in the color demodulation circuit. And hopefully it's done at that point. I can put it back together and get it on its way home, because I have a whole bunch of stuff to work on. Whole bunch of stuff. And I'm kind of stuck in this little area of 3 or 4 things doing multi-part videos, and I don't like to do that. I like to do one video and then... Anyway, I'll get the chassis out. I'll get it on the bench. I'll take a look at it. I'm not going to do like a full how to change electrolytic capacitors. I will say this, if I could speak honest for a minute, that these things, I understand why there's really no one restoring these except owner restorers, because they're just intense and really time consuming and all of that to restore. And what we've learned from the Packard Bell test set is you can change all of the kind of typical internet tells me to change it parts, and things are still going to go bad. So this is kind of like an old car. If you're not going to be in debt, you got to learn how to maintain it and fix it yourself, because it's going to just, you know, it's going to need a lot of service, and it's got to be things that we can't anticipate. As far as capacitors go, I only got 4 values. I got 22 at 450, 2.2 at 350, 47 at 450, and 82 at 450. This was the most cost-effective, best quality I could go with. So all I'm doing is taking pictures of the cans and then matching them up with the symbols on the bottom. I'm not even going to use a schematic to do this. There's no reason to do that. You don't need a schematic. You just take a picture of the can, and it tells you, you know, what the symbol is, what the value is. Now some of them I'm going to cut the old ones off. Some of them I'll put here, some of them I'll follow. If they only have one lead, I'll follow that lead and I'll attach it over here wherever it goes. You don't have to have them all right here. You just have to have them connected. This one is a problem because it's got that disc capacitor in parallel with it. So this one's a problem. These two are a problem because there's more than one item connected there. This one's going to be a pain in the ass to get to, but let me just knock it out. It looks like I am going to have to put most of them in this area because they have double wires going to them. Some of them I'll be able to move, but it's gonna be tight right here. And I'll just put a little silicone on them to hold them together. And okay, that's good. I'm gonna get this done, and then we'll test the tubes in the color circuit. These are the 4 tubes that could cause that delay in the color working. This is a video output. These are the color demodulation tubes. These are not gonna do what it was doing, where there was no color lock for about 5 to 10 minutes. So I'm gonna check. I think a couple of these are, I know that's a 6GH8, which has a horrible reputation, but I haven't been able to prove that reputation. I got them in the Packard Bell test set with 12,000 hours on them, and they're still going strong, so I don't know how they get a bad reputation. Maybe they do in RCA, but the Packard Bell is basically an RCA design. This is the first 6GH8. So D6, D2, and D9. Well, that sucker is dead. Totally dead. So yeah, this is the oscillator. That's the one I pulled out of there with the shield on it, the 3.58. So D2 and D9. That one's okay, but this one is totally dead. If that's, you know, whenever I see them totally dead like that, I just think the tube tester is jacked up. But this one looks like an original, and this one looks like a replacement. The date code here, 6552. Oops, I just noticed I was recording this video in the lowest resolution. Oops, I wonder how that's going to look. This is the 6JC6 burst amp. This one's good. This tube tester always reads a little bit low. This is a 6GU8. This is a quad diode. So here's the first one. Now diodes can usually measure a little bit lower, but that seems a lot lower. Here's the next part. Here's the next part. And here's the fourth element. So they're all reading down at nothing, and that could be it's a diode. It's just 4 little diodes in there. That could be okay. What I might want to do is compare this to a new one before I condemn it. But yeah, I'm sure this 6GH8 right here was the majority of the problem. Okay, we got some tubes here. These were donated by Jordan Peer before he moved to where the grass is greener. So we'll test these. We'll do a comparison with the 6GU8 and then the 6GH8. Well, this 6GU8 is testing about the same. And a lot of times diodes will test really weak. So we're going to try this. This one is used, so I can't use it as 100% of a reference. But I'm going to assume, let's try the 6GH8, and if it's still the color lock is soft, we'll get a new one of these. Yeah, this 6GH8's checking out okay, so we'll try that, and we might need to get a new 6JU8. Alright, let's power it up here and what's going on. I've installed capacitors backwards and they'll explode. Let it run for a minute or two and they'll explode. You know, it's easy to get them in their reverse polarity. Even when you do it a bunch, you're just focused too much on something and you put it in backwards. I've done it. I've made that mistake. And you can even double check it and you still don't. Okay, I don't want to let it warm up, but let's get the signal generator. Channel 3 color bars, EIA color bars, will just split field. Now the idea here is that when you turn this on, the horizontal output tube should be the last thing to warm up. So it should come straight up into color picture. It shouldn't be this airplane in the sky and then airplane on the ground. It should be airplane all at once. Okay, well, something. This is not a relevant test because all of these must have got twisted. Okay, so we have no color. Oh, crap. Yep, it's not locking in. Crap. Try that 6GU, that diode. I'm going to let it warm up for a minute here. We'll see if I can't believe that 6GH8 was that dead and a new one has not made any difference. That's kind of depressing. Seems like it just popped in. It seems like there might be... find a 6JU8, that diode. I replaced it 6JU8, and this time it came right up into color. So I'm going to leave it off for an hour or two. We'll cut it off and we'll come back to it after it's been sitting and completely cooled off and see if that fixed it. It's been sitting a little over an hour. It's warming up now. Let's see if the color lock is there when it comes up. Nope. I need to find a new 6JU8. Here's a whole big box of tubes out of these color TVs. And let's see, 6JU8, it looks like there's about 10 of them in here. 6GH8, it looks like there's about 30 of them in here. So I'll find them. This is how I sort out my tubes. I'll find them and we'll start playing just musical tubes. Well, these are the Sylvania style 6JU8s, and the elements turn the other way. You can see the damn filament burn off on the really need a new one of these. I would have never thought a diode tube would age that bad. I've certainly haven't changed that many of them. This one looks okay. This one doesn't have it doesn't have much burn off. Not that that means it's bad, but it means it's certainly got a lot of hours. This one looks okay. Just have to play musical tubes here. This certainly could be the color burst crystal too. The color burst crystals, old crystals, are suffering from the same issue as silver mica disease. Same basic silver migration. No, that didn't do it. God, I hope it's a tube, because it could be very, very difficult to fix if it's not a tube. Change the 6GH8. I changed that 6GH8 again. Well, let's see what happens. Nope. This could be one of these deals where you just have to start throwing parts at it. I changed the 6GH8 oscillator tube. Nope. I'm not even seeing the barber pulling rainbow anymore. Ooh. It's interesting, that's what I get if I pull the 6JU8 out. This is a trip. Watch if I pull the diode tube out. Pulling the tube out. Let me put the original one back in. That was this one. Okay, the tube is in. It's going to start warming up now. And the color just goes away. What's up with that? This is not a tube issue. This is another issue. There's something else going on here. Okay, well, I adjusted the color killer pot here, and the whole point of the color killer is so that you don't get colored snow when there is no signal. That's all it's for. You don't even need it in today's world. You can turn it off. And I have a feeling that 6GH8 that was bad, it was probably part of the color killer circuit. So now I got to let it cool down again, because it seemed like it was right on the edge of cutting it off. Okay, try number 50 here. This is adjusting the color killer to where with no signal it just gets rid of the snow. Nope. Color AFC alignment. But why would that change? It's like the color just will pop in all of a sudden. If I just leave it, I'll turn the color killer all the way down. See. Well, if I turn the color killer all the way down, that's what I get. And then it'll slowly do this and then lock. Isn't that beautiful? This behavior really seems like a tube. It just really seems like a weak tube that's taking a long time to warm up, but it's not. I got my scope probe attached to the burst stamp 6JC6, and I'm watching the color information, and you can see the color information there. So if I turn, you can see it right there. There's certainly not much there. I'm waiting for the color to lock in. So in the SAMs, under miscellaneous adjustments, is the color AFC alignment procedure. And basically this is how they manipulate the oscillator to lock on to the color burst. Hope I'm describing that right. So you just follow these directions and you adjust a couple coils. You ground something and peak something, and then ground something and peak something else. And you end up with this here where you remove short J, short point J to ground, remove VTVM, adjust A16, which is the color oscillator coil, until color bars stand still or drift slowly. So that's basically tweaking your oscillator, bending the crystal to get it as close as possible. Well, you can conversely use point J like an FM ratio detector, where you can, instead of shorting it, you can measure the voltage there and then adjust the oscillator coil so that it's close to zero as possible. Because when it's close to zero, there's little correction. But you can also use it for diagnostic purposes to see how far it's bending the color oscillator. It'll swing positive and negative just like an FM tuner. So I'm on point J right there. There's a little, and I still have my 470K resistor, but I'm going to turn it on here. And I had it adjusted to 0 about 20 minutes ago with the color locked. So I want to see how much voltage is here. which quite a bit. So it's almost like it's the crystal drifting. And then, so what it's trying to do now is it's trying to correct. And you can see it coming down slowly. See, it's locked in. But that doesn't really matter. This is correcting. If I adjust the oscillator coil, I can get this to go positive or negative voltage. You can see it coming down as it warms up, which suggests that it might be the crystal or something in the oscillator that's drifting as it warms up. That's interesting. I just moved the tube. And see, it stayed locked. Is this like a cracked solder joint? I think it is. Because now it's correcting the other way. This might be a bad solder stake or something. So if I just push on the board, you can see it correcting there. Now something's... Yeah, it's a... This is a bad solder joint. So if I just push on the board here, get a plastic. I mean, and it's staying, I assume it's the color staying locked. But that's it correcting to keep the color locked. So there's some intermittent here somewhere. Crap, that could be really hard to find. I think it's a problem with the board. I think it's an intermittent on the board, or maybe the soldering on the bottom of a tube socket. So this whole intermittent color thing that I thought was tubes, even with a dead 6GH8, appears to be a bad solder joint. Well, nothing stands out to me here as, you know, horrible. I mean, it's all horrible, but nothing stands out to me as extra horrible. It's very possible that it could be that. That looks pretty marginal, doesn't it? I should measure that with the capacitor wizard, and maybe I'll do that. I'll grab the capacitor wizard and measure that ground stake, because that one seems like it, I don't know if that would affect it. Most of these are redundant, like that one there. If you follow it, it comes to this one over here, but yeah, this is just something that RCA is just not that impressive. These appear to be okay. I'm checking them with the capacitor wizard and flexing the board, and I'm not seeing an intermittent there. Not that it still couldn't be intermittent, and I'm just not detecting it, but I don't know. Besides just going through here and like reflowing damn near everything, I mean, it could be, you would think it would be right here because of this is the heat sinner. you know. I got to think about this. Do I want to put this on the jig? Because this is very, very hard to get in and out with all of this remote control stuff on it. I got this chassis set up on the jig, and the idea here that I've come up with, because I want to actually pinpoint what's wrong that's causing this oscillator drift, is I'm going to hopefully get this thing working on the jig to where we can just monitor it, and then I'm going to monitor that voltage, that oscillator control voltage, and try and spray areas of the board with freeze spray and see if I can isolate the exact area where the intermittent or bad connection is. I don't want to just reflow the whole board and then still not be sure that I fixed it. Alright, so here we go. Wow, that's up at 30. That's nice and hot, isn't it? Let me monitor that voltage and see if it moves around. You can see the correction moving around there. I'm going to spray it, I think right here. Boy, man, as soon as I hit it right there, that was this area right here. Right there. Kind of seems like when I spray the oscillator tube socket, I get the most response. I mean, it seemed like it was down here, and then I think I'll reflow the oscillator socket. Okay, I believe I got it. I reflowed this area, and I found a couple, these right here had rings around them. Not the tube socket, the wires right below it had rings around them. And when I soldered them, you could see the ring open up when I heated it up with the soldering. But I think I got it. I've been watching it. You can see it's pretty much been a flat line here. And if I move the tube around, it moves around a little bit. Watch this if I pull the shield off the tube. See that? See it correcting because the shield on the tube affects the oscillator? I mean, that's just me moving my hand around it now. So I think the real reason for that shield is to keep it from transmitting 3.58 megahertz, you know, through the whole city, but you can see that does affect it, but it seems pretty good, so I can adjust it for 0 now. But I think we're good. I think that fixed it. So I got it adjusted for 0. You can see if I turn it this way, it goes positive. If I turn it this way, I'll start to go negative. That's it correcting. So you adjust it for 0. The other way to adjust it is just to short it to ground. Short that test point to ground like this, and you'll see that start rolling, and the further you turn it away from rolling, the faster it gets. So basically what you want to do is bring it, if you could bring it to a standstill like that, that's the same as 0 volts. So it's just pretty much 0. Now the deal with this is every signal source is going to be a little bit different, so it's going to correct up and down. So if I hook it to a converter box, the converter box color oscillator is not going to be the same as a VG91. So that's why it has the ability to correct. Or I should say that's why it needs the ability to correct for variances. But I think it's fixed. Been sitting for an hour. I just fired it up. Nope. 0.3 is quite far off from where it but But as it warms up, it's coming down, so... But it instantly locked when it came up. It was in color, so... You gotta let them warm up and stabilize a little bit. It's coming down towards 0. Alright, let me let it sit for a little bit and we'll see where it goes. It's been running about 15 minutes and it seems pretty good. Seems pretty stable. I think it's fixed. I feel good about it. So now put it back in the cabinet and let it stabilize again. Let it warm up. Well, you know, everything's in the cabinet. I failed to change the across the line capacitor, you know, the one that's right here. And you know what? That makes me smile because somewhere, someone watching is hemorrhaging and frantically trying to find their medication. Somewhere else, someone is digging around trying to find their phone so they can call the suicide hotline for help. Anyway, check these out. These are like placemats that somebody found me, and they got the foam on the back that's all deteriorating and making a mess. Check this out. Talk about cutting edge. Got a lot of these gray zenith ones. Another gray zenith one. Another gray zenith one. And check this one out. Zenith System 3, 1979. Superb picture and more. 25%, now 25% more sharpness. Outstanding dependability. Superb picture. Trifocus picture tube. Ooh, triple plus chassis. Bunch of buzzwords to make something sound great. They were good sets, though. But not as good as the previous generation, I don't think. But System 3. Anyway, let's power this up. If it comes right up into color lock, I gotta do the setup because I had to adjust it for the jig. Because the jig CRT is so much stronger. But if it comes right up into color lock... Please work. Please work. There's the high voltage. We got nothing here. What did I do? Well, no color and no sound. Okay, what did I do? Every time I move this thing, I bump all the controls. But the voltage is doing the same thing it did in the house, so it would seem that it's got color, but why is it not displaying color? Yeah, when I turn the generator off of color, it... Yeah. It's working. Why are we not seeing it? Okay, what am I doing wrong here? Well, it looks like this is the reason why that sound is not working. Did the pins get bent? Not really. It's just every time you take the chassis in and out, you cause problems. I try and be so delicate and so gentle, you know, but you just can't help it. Okay, so now we got sound again. Okay, I think we do actually have color here. It's just I got to do the setup because the red is turned way down. I did the grayscale setup and still no color. So all I can think is that a wire must have broken somewhere from taking the chassis in and out, because the burst and the burst lock are working. Like if I lift this up, you can see it correct if I take the shield off of that. And if I turn go from color bars to something else, you can see this doesn't matter, because there's no color program. There's nothing for it to lock to. So it must be in the band pass, because the burst is working. The burst section of it. So the wiring to the color control, maybe I should check all of these wires on the back of the tuner. Well, I wonder if it was this. This was bent down, touching, I believe this is the color controller, the tint control. It wouldn't matter because it would kill it. But let me try it with this bin out of the way. And yes, that looks like that did it. So I'll wrap that around there as it was intended. Alright, so now we have good color bars, and our voltage is, remember this one should be 0, is coming down. I mean, that's pretty close. We can do plus or minus 3 volts, and it's going to vary depending on the signal source, because it's, you know, the 3.58 is going to be a little bit different on everything. So I think we're good here. Just need to let it run, maybe check the high voltage level. The high voltage looks like it's right about on 21 kilovolts, which is perfect for one of these roundies. You don't want it too high.
This season as well.
Has those beautiful RCA greens. Oh, side effects.
For asthma. Tell your doctor if you have a heart condition or high blood pressure before taking it. Don't take Breztri more than prescribed. Breztri may increase your risk of thrush, pneumonia, and osteoporosis.
Yes.
Call your doctor if worsened breathing, chest pain, mouth or tongue swelling, problems urinating, vision changes, or eye pain occur.
Yes.
Ask your doctor about Breztri.
What you working on?
A time machine, so we can go back to when our house was new.
So let Jimmy John's fix that by adding free chips and a free drink. Turn an 8-inch sandwich.
It's just too bright out here for this. It's got beautiful colors and a nice picture. It's just too bright.
For your entertainment.
But I'm going to call this one good. I'm going to call this one done. It needs to go home. I mean, the video looks horrible because it's just washed out. All right, one more for the road here. Let's just do one final test. It's been sitting for about 6 hours cooling off, so here we go. Power's up. Turn the converter box on. Converter box is on. And let's see, make sure it just comes up straight.
Once again, Jim Nance with Tony Romo, Tracy Wilson, and all the crew from Orchard Park on an overcast day. The lights are on, getting us to a darker point a little bit earlier, but we got the shining stars of the league, 2 of them anyway, Mahomes and Josh Allen. Here they go again. The Bills have had the better
straight into color.
Regular season, the Chiefs have taken all the games in
straight into color. I know it's bright, but
300 days since they last met on this very field.
Working good. Okay. We can call this one ready to go home. Owner needs to get a cord and do the cabinet work where the dog was chewing the corners off of it. But other than that, well, cabinet work, and it's a solid CTC16 by RCA.